Hi guys, I'm Micah McConnaughey, and I decided to do my revision on my CNF piece. I'm going to begin with a note from Neil Gaiman, and he said, the best advice I can give on this, speaking about revision, is once it's done, to put away until you can read it with new eyes. When you're ready, pick it up and read it as if you've never read it before. If there are things you aren't satisfied with as a reader, go in and fix them as a writer. That's revision. And so how I began was I was thinking about what the class told me, and I looked through your guys' notes and comments, and then I actually was thinking about how I felt about the piece, and then I just kind of went back through our textbook and looked at some of the others for examples or ways to handle it. In regards to the class notes, a lot of you felt like my CNF piece, which was about my sister being born, you guys felt like it was a good story, but it just didn't amount to anything. It kind of fell short. And you also felt like there was a lot of things that I would mention that I didn't clarify or come back to. And so I kind of was keeping that in mind as I rewrote it. I started by changing the point of view completely. I went through and changed it all from first person to third person, which I have an example of. You guys read the one on the left, but the one on the right you guys haven't read, which I can read for you. Mom, a squeaky 6-year-old voice asked over the sound of the car on a bridge crossing the Ohio River. A woman glanced over her shoulder and raised her eyebrow in question at the small pale child. Can I have a little sister? The reason I decided to make this change was I'm not one for nonfiction, and doing this kind of helped me because it felt a lot more like I was telling a story rather than recounting events of my life. Kind of made it more story-driven rather than, okay, well now I got to tell them like how I felt, and then I did this, then it just kind of, at least to me, it flowed better. Now going back, with my thoughts, when I was looking at the comments and stuff, I really liked a lot of them, but then I was kind of like, well, I'm going to have to decide which of these I want to take away and which of these I just want to push to the side. And so what I did was, after reading the comments from the class, I actually went back and reread my piece as it was. And what I used really was the quote. It says, if there are things you aren't satisfied with as a reader, go in and fix them as a writer. That's revision. So I kind of went through and highlighted everything I did not like with my piece. There was things that I just felt out of place. They just didn't feel right to me. And so I made those changes. So in regards to the clarification and changing, I actually changed the title which was A Birthday to Remember, which confused a lot of you because you're like, whose birthday? Why was it supposed to remember? And I changed it to A New Sibling. Because this kind of made the focus more on my sister and the story. It kind of clarified what it was about before I even started. And then there was a section in there where I said I finally would get my wish. And a lot of you are like, we don't know what your wish was, which I briefly mentioned it before, but it wasn't enough to explain it. So what I went in and specifically said I finally got my wish of having a younger sister. And then a lot of you wanted me to continue on from where I'd stopped and tell how my life was different having a younger sister, which I think added half a page or a page of just that. And so these were the changes I felt were necessary. After I'd read it, I changed the point of view, which we talked about. I also had a piece of dialogue in the thing, which we had talked about dialogue's good in Creative Nonfiction, but I just felt like in my piece where there had been no dialogue, the dialogue felt really out of place, and it just wasn't working. And so what I replaced that with was the background information on myself to kind of show how I was before my sister was born and how I was after, just showing how having a younger sibling changed me, which I talked about. There was a part where I mentioned when I was younger and through middle school, I would say I was never going to change a diaper, which is right here. I'm going to read it to you. It says, Micah, growing up, had always told everyone that if he ever had kids, he would never, ever change a diaper. However, as his sister Riley grew, this promise could not and would not last. As his brother would not babysit in avoidance of responsibility, this was left up to Micah. Things were going great until the moment he learned of the horrors that could lay beneath the white Pampers. Those were experiences that Micah still wishes to this day that he could forget. And it all comes back to the quote at the beginning about when revising, you have to find what you're not happy with, looking at it from an outside perspective. And that's how I went about changing my piece. The exercise that actually inspired me, or helped inspire me, it said, go back to something you have written and find a character who appears only briefly or is named or referred to without appearing. Characterize that person with a single vivid image. And while I had mentioned my sister, I had never really described her the day she was born. And so I added in this section. I said, tiny fingers were attached to the tiny hand that was attached to the tiny arm that was a part of this newcomer. She was lighter than Micah could have ever imagined. Chubby cheeks were puffed up near the small shut eyes as the baby napped. And I kind of just wanted the readers, you guys, to experience, or to get a little insight into what I was feeling at that moment, what I was seeing. Because it's like, well, this is related to me. It's a new baby. Kind of just what I was seeing. And that's everything.
Okay.